Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dream Scheme podcast presented to you by D.A.T.A Productions. Dreams are tangible aspirations all the way. We always grinding. Shout out to them. I'm your host, Art Turner. That's for short. My full name is D. Arthur Turner the Fourth. I'm glad to be your host for the Dream Scheme podcast. I'm very excited to be doing this. I think we're starting off 2018 very strong. And so let's just really get into why I'm doing this show and why I think it's important for our generation to have a dialogue and conversation and open space like I want to have on this platform. So let me just get into it. So first, I'm gonna go through like my introduction of self, a little bit about me. Then I'm gonna go into like the purpose of this show, the purpose of the Dream Scheme podcast. We'll get into some of the content we're gonna go over, and then I'll just go into one topic today. The show today is going to be kind of not as long as other shows will be in the future when I have a little bit more time to put a little bit more work and research into that. But I'm going to give you a good show today and a little tidbit of what you can expect coming forward, because I'm bringing heat every day. We're going to grow together. We're going to expand our minds, and we're just going to get better. We're going to be better people because of it. So again, we're getting our content, and we're going to get, to my little topic I want to get before I close up the end of the show. So, let's just get back into it. Let's go. So, for the first episode on the Dream Scheme podcast, episode 1. So first, I'm just going to give you, the introduction to self. Like I said, my full name's D. Arthur Turner the Fourth. You can just call me Art for short if you want. Originally, I am from Pennsylvania, and we will dive deeper into where I've lived later into the show today. I'm a professional insurance agent by day. Yeah, I don't know if y'all know that, but yes, I am by day. And I'm a documentary filmmaker and aspiring media producer at night. So that's my, my night grind. That's my side grind. That's what I'm really trying to get into. So, obviously you got to pay the bills. As a young adult, you're trying to make it on your own. You got to pay them bills. You got loans and all that. But on the side, you got to make sure you're doing what in all your power to try to put you in a position to be where you want in 10, 15 years from now. And so that's the trajectory I'm following. A little fun fact about myself, we're going to try to, keep it light and airy on the show, but at the same time, try to be serious. But, we can't take ourselves too seriously at the end of the day. When I was younger, I had to be saved by lifeguards at a water park in water that wasn't even my height. So a little tidbit on that story. So I was probably 9, 10 at the time. I didn't learn how to swim just yet. I was probably 5 something, I don't know. And the water was 4 or 5. It wasn't even at 5 feet. I'm on the tube, those long tubes at those water parks, you go down those long tubes and those big circle joints, right? So, my ass, I go down there, and I want to say on the show, I'm not going to be cursing a lot, but, if it slips once in a while, that's, that's part of the show. So anyway, so them long tubes up there on the slide, right? So myself, I go down, right, head first, right into the pool. And, again, I can't swim, so I'm panicking, but all I had to do was stand up. So what they do, had to shut down that whole section, get lifeguards in there and get me out. So, that was a little bit of a rough patch, but, we got through that. So now let me just get into, the purpose of the show, why I'm doing this show, why I think this show's important. And so first, I think it's important for our generation. I just come out of college, just graduated, and I'm trying to find myself. I think it's important for our generation to provide ourselves a creative open space for young motivated individuals who are open to learning, producing new ideas, and wanting to discuss dreams and opportunities, expanding the minds of all parties involved, and just learning at least one thing before you click off the screen and you do whatever else in your day. So that's my purpose, and I think that's what we're going to try to get done in this show. And a little disclaimer, you might not agree with everything I say, but that's okay, as long as we can have an open, a safe dialogue to talk about whatever. That's all that matters. And then so now I'm just going to do some of the content you can expect in the show going forward. I'm gonna try to do this show at least, bi-weekly or something like that. I'm gonna try to do it at least on a consistent basis. So you'll get some good content from me. Don't worry. But so content wise, there's the things you need to be looking out for, and I'm gonna be researching it. I'm gonna take this show seriously. I'm not just up here tooting my horn. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to work on my craft. I'm trying to build my craft. I'm trying to build something. I'm trying to build a brand. So I'm taking this seriously, and as you should in any profession that you're going in. So content wise, I'm going to talk all things business, travel, just very little politics, mostly in relation to other topics. We'll get into it just a little bit, but that's not really my deal. Society, the world, science, music, open-ended things, pop culture, books. And then, I'm going to try to get music videos from young up-and-coming artists around the area, or just people I really dig, and, try to give them a platform for them to get their music out. I might have only like 2 viewers, but, that's better than none. And I think, supporting them is good for anybody. It's just positive energy. So we're going to run with it. We'll see where it goes. Again, represented by dreams or tangible aspirations. I guess I should go like smack dab into the topic. And the topic I wanted to talk about today is the power of travel. The power of travel, it's something that, you can't manufacture it unless you do it. Traveling, you can't manufacture what you get out of, traveling to different nations and seeing different people unless you actually do it. You can look at a screen all you want. You can't really tell me that how another person lives, how they breathe, how they think, if you're seeing it by the screen. You have to get, ground zero in that environment, in that situation. And then that's when you start figuring out how the other side lives. And so what I wanted to talk about in this topic of the power of travel is just on another level. I think the importance of seeing and living in a different place you've never been to is extremely important, and I think it's more important than ever before in this day and age. And I have just finished the book, Malcolm X autobiography. Love the book. I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian. You can learn something from Malcolm X's autobiography, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot more than I ever did in a textbook, about black history, in that one paragraph they put in the history books. So you'll learn a lot. And I think it's for all parties. It's not just for the black man, but definitely if you're a black man and you haven't read this book, I strongly suggest it, especially in society where, it's easy to get caught up in saying, hey, everything's equal when it's not. And I guess with Trump as president, it's come to light a little bit more. And so what I wanted to talk about on this topic of, the power of travel, I wanted to talk about Malcolm X and his story in his book, and how, traveling helped him become who he was. Malcolm X is one of the most inspiring people to ever walk this earth. In his book, they said he was the only person in the black community that could start a riot and stop it at the same time. That's how powerful he was to the black community, and how much influence he had, especially when he started going globally. And he started getting that from traveling, and that came from a young age, very young. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of his biography and how moving around to different places has helped him, in his life. And I'm going to how it's helped mine as well at the end. So, first, look, Malcolm X, he was from Lansing, Michigan, grew up there, then moved to Detroit, obviously still in the same state, but, moving city to city, there's, different personalities. Lansing is definitely different than Detroit. A Lansing ghetto is different than a Detroit ghetto. He saw that in his book. Then he went from Detroit to Boston, and then, you're going from the Midwest to the Northeast. There's definitely a big difference from, Michigan ghettos and black people, and then Northeast, ghettos and black people, and I'm bringing this up because that's where he was at this time growing up. Like, obviously when he grew up, he started to touch other people, but we're talking at the start. the slums. Like, so like at a young age, he already knew the differences between slums, and that's what helped him become a better hustler. So when he moved to Harlem, New York, it was butter to him. Like, he was already, working the rail cars. He was already selling dough, selling weed, coke, and doing all this crazy stuff. Like 17, my dude was like one of the heaviest hitters in Harlem at the time, in like the 50s, the mid 50s. I'm like, bro, the dude had the juice. The movie Juice with like Tupac, bro. Dude, Malcolm X had the juice. He didn't kill anybody, but dude, he had the juice. So, and then I wanted to bring up, because he knew, even before he was Malcolm X, he was still Malcolm Little. He knew a lot of musicians, a lot of great black musicians at that time, and he sold weed to them. Then with that, he worked on a rail car on one of the trains that always went up the Northeast down south. So he was always selling weed, down south, North Carolina, Atlanta, Maryland, those type places. So he was already seeing so many different type of black people in America. And you would think that, all black people are the same in America, but they're not. And different places have different traditions, different cultures, different way of life. And then he even knew that as well. So Malcolm X, then, he went to prison. His nickname was Satan. And for how much he hated, and spewed hate for the white devil of America, like all white people. He was under the impression that all white people, it didn't matter if you were the white complexion, you were the flat out devil. That's what he came into prison with. Then, he found the Nation of Islam. He started preaching that gospel, preaching, Elijah Muhammad's word, to a lot of people. And he, helped grow the Nation of Islam to like astronomical levels. I think maybe at the time when he joined, there's maybe like 4,000 cats. I'm pretty sure under the influence of him, he raised the Nation of Islam to like 400,000 alone, and that was like a 12-year span. He definitely, in the history books, they definitely harped on the hatred they thought he spewed, and he did, I guess, spewed a lot of hatred, but that's what they harped on. They always misconstrued what he was trying to, say for the black man. He was saying, he was just telling the truth of what, the whites were doing. And, obviously in the media, you're the winners of this, write the history books. So, obviously the white people write the history books. They have Martin Luther King, who was, shout out Martin Luther King. We just had his, his birthday, love him to death. But they had him more of an idol than Malcolm X. MLK, he was love, compassion, and Malcolm X, he was hatred, just red hot, the devil. And there was just like, almost, we had to have like a competition, which it didn't need to be, because Malcolm X respected the man, in his own way. He didn't always say it, but he respected MLK, and I think they both made influence on the black community in some way and in, the world. So why can't they both coexist in different point of views? America always likes to pit each other against each other. That's just, that's just what we were bred to do, and that's what's in our soil. That, then, go Nation of Islam. And so with that, what I'm trying to get to is at a point in his life, he got out of prison. He started preaching, the Nation of Islam gospel. And then he was such a devout Muslim. You have to, if you're physically able as a Muslim, you have to at least go Mecca once. You have to take Hajj. You have to go travel to the Holy Land at least once in your life if you're physically able as a Muslim. That is a requirement. It's not, there's no discussion in the matter. If you can, you have to, requirement. And so he was a devout Muslim, and he had to ask his sister for the money because, he didn't make a lot of money with the Nation of Islam. He honestly, if anybody thought the man was rich, he was not rich. He put it all back into that institution, and, they took from him at the end of the day. But anyway, he goes to Mecca, and then, his whole life changed. Obviously, you think his life would change, but you would think his whole perspective on how he saw life and how he saw America and how he saw people change because of his trip to Mecca. And while seeing that, he brings up in a lot, and I'm going to read you a passage, what he says. He saw, he was able to sit, next to white people and not have that energy of hatred that was just, embodied in America. Other Muslims with the bluest eyes and the blondest hairs, they were able to get along and they were able to, break bread together. And that's what he loved. And he saw of all different colors, all different races come in one area of the Holy Land in Mecca to, praise Allah. And, that helped him so much. And that when he went back to, America, that made him a better person, I feel. And I think people try to keep him in the box of, a person who was just always spewed hatred. But when he left Mecca, when he came back, he totally had a different viewpoint on a white person in America. He said, okay, not a totally different view. It was more like, okay, there's definitely white people out there that are good natured, but the institutionalized racism that was in America, that was still alive. And there was still a lot of evil of the quote unquote white man in America. And that was very true. But then he also, on the other side, he knew on his travels that not all white people are bad. So let me just pull up this excerpt from his book. I think this is very important. And I think it just it taught me the power of, seeing a different place. And, it's okay to switch your perspective when you see something else and when you expand your mind. He thought he knew it all for Muslim, but he didn't. He didn't even know how to do a prayer right, until he got to Mecca. So, life is always about a learning experience. He was like 37 when he made that trip. And he was a devout Muslim, 37. And he didn't even, know 50% of what a true traditional Muslim would do. He started to learn that, but he didn't know that until he got out of his zone of America. So let me just go into this excerpt. So he wrote a letter to his family that he wanted to be published back in the States, and he wanted everybody to see. And so I'm just going to read it. Never have I witnessed such sincere hospitality and overwhelming spirit of true brotherhood as is practiced by people of all colors and races here in the ancient Holy Land, the home of Abraham, Muhammad, and all the other prophets of the Holy Scriptures. For the past week, I've been utterly speechless and spellbound by the graciousness I see all around from me, people of all color. I have been blessed to visit the holy city of Mecca. I've made my 7 circuits around the Kaaba, led by a young Matwaf named Muhammad. I drank water of a well of Zemzem. I ran 7 times back and forth between the hills of Mount Al-Salva and Mount Hafmafra. I have prayed in the ancient city of Mina, and I have prayed on Mount Arfat. There were tens of thousands of pilgrims from all over the world. They were of all colors, from blue to blonde-eyed to black-skinned Africans. But we were all participating in the same ritual, displaying the same spirit of unity and brotherhood that all my experiences in America have led me to believe never could exist between the white and the non-white. America needs to understand Islam, because this is the one religion that erases from its society the race problem. Throughout my travels in the Muslim world, I have met, talked to, and have eaten with people who in America would have been considered white. But the quote-unquote white attitude was removed from their minds by the religion of Islam. I have never before seen sincere and true brotherhood practiced by all colors together, irrespective of their color. And so that's just like a little excerpt from his letter that he sent back to his family to be published. And I hopefully you can, get the book and read the book. It's a really good read. It's kind of a fast read, but it's a lot of pages, but it's a pretty fast read as well. And hopefully, you find some power within that, because I did. And I don't want to spiel the whole deal, because I think there's a lot of gems that you just need to uncover yourself in this world. And there's a lot of gems in books. So now I kind of want to relate this back to how this all comes to me. I lived in 3 different countries: America, London, England, and Canada, London, Ontario. Shout out, almost a 6. Lived in 3 different states as well, across the nation: Northeast Pennsylvania, Midwest St. Louis. Shout out Missouri, and in San Diego, California now. And through my travels, I've moved. When I was small, I moved in high school. Family moved in college. I'm probably going to move again at some point to some different area. But growing up, I strove for the comfort zone. I strove for, keeping things the same, keeping things consistent. I hated moving. You lose friends, but also you figure out who your real friends are on those rides, because I have at least one friend in all the places I've lived that I can call up any day and they'll give me a time and day to talk. And that's very important. And also in them travels, I've gained perspective. I've lived in London, England for 6 months. So I know how the other side of, the English speaking world is. And it's different than America. I've traveled to a lot of different other countries. I've seen how the Europeans live. I've seen how they view society. America, we pretty much live to work. We tell ourselves, we tell our children to find a job that you love, because this is what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. But in Europe, they work to live. Their life isn't their work. And, I realized that, when I was going abroad, 6 o'clock, they're eating. Well, they don't eat that early, but I would say, 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock, they're eating with their family. 6 o'clock, they're off work. And don't tell them to stay to 6:15, because they're not doing it. In America, nothing never sleeps, because it's all about the dollar. But, in Europe, that's really not the case. It's really not about the dollar. It's just about life. So that's what I learned, and I'm definitely, using that to my advantage as I'm growing up in my world. I'm only 23 years old, and I still got a lot to do, but as all of y'all got to do, and that's why I'm doing this, and that's why I want to have the discussion. And so as I, close this up, again, this is my very first episode. I'm rusty, but it's going to get better as, the episodes go along. I'm just glad, I'm trying to, touch my dreams, and it's just one step at a time, as you should all do. Do not wait for anybody. Do not hold back. Just go at it and attack every day. So, get at your dreams. Once again, my name is Art, Dream Scheme Podcast. I'm working on other podcasts as well, sports, because, I like to get in sports as well. The turnaround, that's coming soon. Shout out D.A.T.A Productions. We're really starting it off. So, let you know, if you didn't really realize where I'm at in my closet, you got to start somewhere. I want to tell everybody out there, look, it don't matter if you start, in a closet. It don't matter if you start, a cardboard box. If you grind, and if you really want it, you're going to get it at some point. You just got to be ready. You got to make sure that when that opportunity comes, you're ready to take it. And that's what the Dream Scheme's all about. We're going to get into, how to, to make moves and maneuver around in this world and be successful. So, that's the episode today for the Dream Scheme podcast. It's going to get better as I get better and as I build on my craft. And also, I'm going to be on my longer episodes, I'm definitely going to throw in some, some media in there for y'all to nibble on as I get more visuals your way. So, all right, so I'm signing off. Dream Scheme Podcast, Art Turner, hosted by D.A.T.A Productions. I'm coming at you maybe in a week or so. We'll see. But deuces.